Hey, welcome to Japanning. This is the video series where we tour the world of Japanese food, one city and one guest at a time. I'm Hannah Etsko-Detlefsen, and I am very interested in the food of the Japanese diaspora. So I'm interested in people of Japanese descent living around the world, and I want to know what their version of Japanese food is like. And so I've asked a series of interesting people from around the world if they can talk to me and tell me a little bit more about what Japanese food is like where they have grown up and where they live. And that's how we're going to discover the food of the Japanese diaspora. And today I am very excited to bring my friend Chihiro into the conversation. And Chihiro is the brains and the amazing talent behind Kintoki Sweets, which is an Instagram feed that features beautiful Japanese wagashi sweets. And if you already follow Kintoki Sweets, you will know that Chihiro posts as Sen, but today in our interview, we are going to use her regular name, Chihiro. So welcome, Chihiro.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here, Hannah.
I'm really happy to have you. If you can just make sure you're speaking up, I think you're a little bit quiet.
Oh, okay. I'll try and speak up.
Thank you. So basically, I was really interested to bring you on because you are in my hometown, Vancouver, but also you grew up outside of Vancouver, and we are going to get to that. But I think it's a really interesting story of and an interesting experience of Japanese food in Canada. But I'm going to start this interview with what I'm calling a segment called Cooking Up a Conversation. And basically what I'm going to do is to ask you a rapid fire series of questions. I've got a kitchen timer here, and I'm going to set it for 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, we're going to see if you can answer 12 questions. And I forgot to ask, I asked you if you could prepare a glass of wine or other alcoholic beverage. Do you have that at hand?
Well, I happen to have, every year I make a bottle of umeshu, which is plum wine or liqueur. So today I have a 2019 plum liqueur I made. It's quite a generous shot because it's pretty high proof, but there's a little plum in there as well. So I will try my best to answer it within the time limit so I can sip it, enjoy it instead of having to shoot it.
Okay, so Chihiro just explain the rules. So if Chihiro's able to finish answering 12 questions within 5 minutes, he will be able to sip that umeshu leisurely. If she misses, then we will have her shoot back that umeshu. So either way, I win. Either you are relaxed and happy, or you're a little bit drunk and more open in your conversations. So are you ready, Chihiro?
Sure.
Okay, we are going to start. Number 1, where were you born?
I was born in Canada.
And where did you grow up?
I left Banff when I was 18, and then I came straight to Vancouver, where I am currently living.
And how long have you been living in Vancouver?
Since 2003.
Okay, so a long time, 17 years. Number 4, what is your family's connection to Japan?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Number 4 is, what is your family's connection to Japan?
So my parents are both from Japan. Me and my 2 sisters were born here, so that makes me first generation Canadian, right? Or second gen Japanese?
Second gen? I don't actually know how we count the generations. But your parents immigrated and you are the first born generation. Yeah.
Okay.
And number 5, can you tell me about Kentucky Sweets and why you chose to start it?
So Kentucky Sweets focuses around very traditional Japanese sweets, but not so much in the form, but the concept of shun, which ashi in Japanese sweets really strictly follow. It's one of the few Japanese traditional dishes that is still very, very widely available to like common people. There's a lot of wagashi stores in Japan. It's not like a multi-$100 course that you have to go to some restaurant to enjoy. Everybody can, it's very accessible. It follows seasons. It really honors like the seasonality in colors, ingredients, and the accessibility made it very attractive for me to kind of emulate it, that experience in Canada, because we have great ingredients that are local, and by using those local seasonal ingredients, I could bring that little piece of shun to people in Canada. And yeah, I just thought it might be an Instagram thought would be a good medium, because I could kind of the process and have in one scrolling long little content and photo together. And it's a little bit long.
I've never thought about that you could scroll through and kind of scroll through the seasons. Okay, but we're short on time. So number 6. What are the Japanese foods from your childhood that you crave or get nostalgic for?
Oh, umeboshi and shiso flavored anything. Growing up in Alberta, there's no Japanese grocery store. You have to go, to Calgary, which is hours away. So my grandma would send a care package that had in it, always in the tuck corner, a big bag of homemade umeboshi, and it was the old school umeboshi, lots of shiso, lots of salt, none of that honey and added flavors. It was like the old school umeboshi, and that's what I grew up on. And when I have a cold or I'm feeling homesick, like that's what I crave. I crave umeboshi on ice. Yeah. And like last couple of years, I've actually challenged to make it myself with local plums instead of plums, and I'm super. Oh no! Oh,
Keep going. Okay, she's so umeboshi. Number 7, what did you take to school in your bento or your lunchbox?
With umeboshi inside, wrapped in seaweed.
Number 8, if I were to travel to Vancouver as a tourist with no prior knowledge of the food scene there, what would be the 3 most common dishes I would find in Japanese restaurants?
The 3 main dishes, sorry?
What would be the 3 most common dishes I would find in a Vancouver Japanese restaurant?
You would find mayo, karaage, and probably some sort of avocado dragon roll with spicy mayo on top.
I have to say, this timed out, but it didn't ding. So it was a very unsatisfactory end to our 5 minutes. But it did run out of time. So Chihiro, I'm going to make you chug. But I'll go with you. Ready? I think this might be a really bad idea.
Hannah, yours is mine. Mine is like a 40% liqueur.
Oh my God. Okay, now that's a taste of my own medicine. Okay, what were the 3 things that you said I would find it in Vancouver?
Sorry, what's the three? There's a little bit of lag, so I thought you said the three main dishes that you'd find in Vancouver
In
in a
Vancouver's
Japanese
Japanese
restaurant.
restaurant. So you said something like dragon rolls?
Like a crazy roll with avocado, spicy mayo, and whatever crispy onion bits.
Yeah,
Maybe mayo is probably in and chicken karaage probably.
chicken karaage. Okay. So question 9. I'm just going to go through, but we'll just do this at our own pace. If you were to
Okay.
take me out to eat in Vancouver at a Japanese restaurant, what would you insist that I order?
That I assist you order?
Hmm. Like, what would you
Okay.
think would be the
So,
best representation?
of a Vancouver, probably something very. I think Vancouver is known for a lot of its izakaya style, which is a lot of fusion, Asian fusion, tapas style foods that goes like smaller bites that goes with some beer, sake. So yeah, probably like I wouldn't order it, but if you were here and you're trying to get the whole Vancouver experience, maybe something with salmon or ikura in it. Like we have really great local salmon. So
Mhm.
and oysters.
Ooh.
Um, so maybe some oysters with some creative uh, topping on top.
Mhm. So local seafood basically would be what you would recommend. Okay. So number 10 is if I were to travel to Vancouver and you were to cook a Japanese meal for me at your home, what would you make?
Oh, it depends on the season. If you come right now, I am a huge mushroom fan, so I would probably go and forage some mushrooms for you because you're a very
Mhm.
special person. And then the salad is great. I think I do a variation on a takikomi gohan, which is you have a rice, but you add cooked ingredients in the rice in a clay pot, preferably. You can do it in a regular rice cooker, but a clay pot just it steams a lot better inside. So some local, maybe some cod and mushroom, uh, donabe style takikomi rice is what I
Sounds
would
nice.
make for you.
I like the seasonality of that, and I think I would really appreciate that you have foraged the mushrooms yourself. That would feel very of place. Um, I have 2 final questions in this lightning round. What do you think 11 is what do you think makes Vancouver's Japanese food unique or different from Japanese food in Japan?
What makes Vancouver Japanese food unique compared to Japanese food in Japan? Let's see. I think it's the fact that Japanese person opens a restaurant here, they don't have the obligation of having to be super strict and traditional to kind of appease towards like, look, this is Japanese food. I've kept it very traditional. I think it gives people here have a little bit more freedom to be more experimental. They're like, oh, this we can call this Japanese food, but still have like gochujang mixed in it, and I won't have somebody calling me up. This isn't Japanese food. It doesn't matter. Like, you can
Mhm.
really be a little bit more creative, more more of your own experimentations into it. I feel you have lots of especially if you go towards like Richmond or Robson Street, you see a lot of Korean people there. You see a lot of people from Hong Kong. You see a lot of from China. Like, and you saw those ingredients in Japanese food, and the people who are going to come to your restaurant are not going to be necessarily like Japanese people. They're going to be kids here from exchange in Korea, and they're going to want that spice in their karaage. So like, you add the spicy mayo on and nobody's gonna be like, oh, this isn't, real Japanese karaage. Like nobody's gonna call you on that. So you have a little bit more freedom, I think, to experiment. So yeah, so it's like kind of traditional, like kind of staple Japanese foods, but with flair that you wouldn't see mostly in condiments, maybe in arrangements that you wouldn't see in Japan, I think would be Vancouver, very Vancouver style Japanese
Mhm.
food.
And I think what I'm getting out of that also in the examples that you get is like you have that freedom, but also you have the influences of the communities who are in Vancouver. So Chinese communities, Korean
Yeah,
communities,
definitely.
like a lot of East Asian food cultures are there together, and there's the freedom to mix and match.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question in the lightning round is there one dish that you think represents Vancouver's Japanese food scene?
A restaurant?
Just one dish that represents the Vancouver Japanese food scene. So,
Oh dear. So probably a spicy BC roll. It's crispy grilled salmon skin. So it's actually basically it's if you do it right, it's very delicious. It's super crispy. It's like salmon bacon almost, and then you put that in a roll and maybe some cucumbers or avocados, and it's layered with a spicy mayo sauce on top. So you have the local seafood in there. You have like the spicy whatever's that people here like, and it's sushi, which Vancouver people eat copious amounts of sushi. Like is like the staple to go food. Um, yeah, so probably a BC roll, and actually like BC roll.
I think I would choose BC roll too. It's kind of the thing that sums up the experience. Not that it's my favorite thing, but I think it is a real representation of Vancouver's Japanese food. I have a couple more questions for you, Chihiro, just that are questions just for you because you're doing Kintoki sweets. And you talked about this idea of shun and using seasonality. And you gave that example of making, foraging for mushrooms and making mushroom takiri gohan. Could you walk me through 1 year of food in Vancouver? Not but like what are one or two ingredients from each season that you get excited about?
Okay, so seasonal food in Vancouver within a year that I get excited about is the question.
Mhm.
So I guess we'd start. Should we start? Okay, we'll start fall right now because it's very relevant. So right now, all the salmon is coming in. We have amazing, amazing salmon here in Vancouver, and one of my favorite restaurants makes their own salmon roll, and it's so amazing. It hasn't been frozen. It's been lovingly processed. It's not too salty. So their salmon roll on rice is what I look forward to like every year. It's super exciting. I've done it. I've made my own salmon roll once, but it's very time consuming to like separate the little eggs out of the egg sac. So I'm more than happy to pay somebody else to do a great job on that. So that's what I get excited now. As well, there's a lot of foraged mushrooms that shows up on a lot of even like the local grocery stores. Plus the farmers markets will have lots of local foraged mushrooms. You get lots of chanterelles here, which is amazing. They're so amazing. And a lot of the other lesser known mushrooms, like the sleevelesses and the boletus, or boletus, I guess, is not less known, but those get me really excited when I see local mushrooms on the menu.
Mhm.
Winter, I guess, like we also get a lot of oysters here, and I don't know why, but I do crave a lot of oysters in winter. We have lots of great oyster bars here, really
Yeah.
creative vinaigrettes go with these oysters. So, um, yeah, and even some of the oysters are Japanese varieties like miyagi, kushi. So I think that's sort of a weird Japanese sort of food that's been really embraced by Vancouver. Like it's not like raw oysters is not Japanese, but like the Japanese oysters sometimes will have soy, green, or very sake vinaigrettes that go with them, which gets me really excited.
That's
And then in
really
spring,
delicious.
spring also I'm seeing a lot of pops of like matcha bars showing up in Japan. And for me, spring and like the new flush of matcha, and it's so great when I go to these matcha shops and they go, "Hey, we got the first flush in, we got the first flush matcha," and I get really excited. I'll order probably a matcha bag to take home, and there it's great. We have amazing cherry blossom season here, so nothing beats a nice matcha in your hand, walking through any of the streets in Vancouver and watching the cherry blossoms. And then summer, we have amazing local farmers and food markets and farmers markets. So yeah, I'm not sure any is a Japanese dish that I associate with summer, but we do this. Unfortunately, this year it was moved to a virtual platform, but we have the Powell Street Festival, which is my absolute favorite event that happens. It happens in the historic Japanese town in Gastown around Powell Street. And what happens is the Japanese community, some third generation, I think even some fourth generation Japanese people kind of come together in their old kind of haunt, as most people have dispersed from that original area. And it's a 3-day festival that happens every summer. And you see the older people bring up their yukatas and relive that Japanese summer festival vibe. There's yakisoba, fried noodles, takoyaki with octopus or shrimp, all the sauces and the seaweed on top. You have Japanese style shaved ice, and it's just, you have Japanese taiko. And me not growing up in Japan, it's the closest thing I feel to what I would feel if I had went to a Japanese festival in Japan. So I do put on a yukata or a ro summer kimono, and I just love it so much, just being in that kind of fun vibe. So that's what I look forward every summer, all the yakitais, which is what we call the food shops in Powell Street Fest. And then we're back to fall. So there's my whole year of things I look
That
forward
sounds
to.
amazing. It was so nice to relive a whole year of Vancouver through your favorite ingredients. I have one final question for you, Chihiro, and it's a short one, but it's a hard one. So my question is, this video series is all about learning more about Japanese foods around the world. If I could give you $1 million, you could travel anywhere to taste the Japanese food of that country, which country would you go to?
Oh, definitely like Peru and Chile. Just one country? I can't go to two. Okay, in that case, I will go to Peru. Because I don't know if many people know, but there's a huge diasporic population of Japanese people in South America that happened quite a long time ago. I think I'm trying to give you the right proper date so I'm not wrong, but fairly early in the century. So we have third and fourth Japanese or third generation Japanese people living in Peru and Brazil and all those South American countries that they have settled and have families, and their food cultures that have merged together. It just sounds so fun. We have one restaurant in Vancouver called Ancora, which is Japanese Peruvian, that I've gone to several times, and the flavors, I'm not sure if the sensibilities of Peruvian and Japanese food was similar, or how like the freshness of the seafood, but there's something very bright and fresh, like all the citrus flavors that South American cuisines use, and like kind of spicy chilies, too spicy, but like very warm flavors that you don't see in traditional Japanese foods, that work so well with kind of like have the Japanese preparations that they have utilized. So I would say Peru. I would go to Peru to Japanese
Okay.
Peru.
I am really interested in So I will try and find somebody in Peru or who has lived there as a Japanese person to answer some of our questions about what it's like to eat Japanese food in Peru. But I just want to thank you, Chihiro. I am always so inspired by your passion for Japanese food and also for seasonal ingredients. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and sharing your food experience.
Thanks for having me, Hana. This is really fun.
All right. Thank you so much.